I'll give you a massive tip what to look for when buying an E-Type. Good day everyone, we're back here at P&K Thornton where today we're going to go through the Jaguar E-Type and a full buyer's guide. Here's what you need to know. First, we're going to go through the different generations of the E-Type, Series 1, 2 and 3. What are the differences between them? What are the body models that Jaguar created for the beloved Jaguar E-Type? What we can do for you as P&K Thornton Restorations from 1967. And also what to look for when you're looking to buy a Jaguar E-Type XKE. The Series 1 E-Type was introduced at the Geneva Motor Show in 1961. Norman Dewis had a great adventure driving the car. That was nearly finished by the, he absolutely made it to the show where it received huge admiration from the crowds. By some, it was described as the most beautiful car in the world, and who can actually fault that? We can see it from the cover headlights and the length of the bonnet, just the continuous shape of the body, and also how the car drives. Still, even to today's date, is still irreplaceable. What makes the difference between a Series 1 and a Series 2 E-Type? Well, the early cars, in particular the 1961 cars and the early 1962 cars, were fitted with a flat floor, which makes them quite uncomfortable to drive for the taller drivers. But this is where the value is. The early cars, especially the ones with the external body lock, are the most desirable ones. The first 250 cars were fitted by Jaguar with this feature, which makes them very, very special. There are different modifications in terms of how the cars were initially produced. Initially, it was more like a handcrafted assembly line, while later it became a bit more quick, a bit more automatic, the whole production module. But the early cars were almost bespoke and hand-built, which makes them very, very cool. Over the years, we've seen quite a few of those cars through the workshop, and we can actually tell the differences between an early car, where the bulkhead is very different, and even inside there are certain features that make it very special. This is a 1961 December build, so it's still a flat floor, but it's not an external bonnet lock car. The Series 1s are the ones that if you are interested in a special E-Type, you would be interested in buying it. And many still remember the looks of the Series 1 as the prettiest look, really, and is very widely appreciated. The Series 1 started its adventure powered by the 3.8 liter engine, while in 1964 the 4.2 liter engine was introduced. They were all fueled by 3 SU 2-inch carburetors, while the exhaust side they had cast manifolds. So the mechanical side is pretty basic. Double wishbone suspension at the front. The whole construction of the car is very interesting. It is monocoque, while the engine is held in place at the front by 4 engine frames, the 2 side frames, the bonnet hanging frame and the picture frame. So a very interesting and revolutionary construction at the time by Jaguar. So still very impressive. The cars do drive fantastic. They're very rewarding to drive, and the ownership of an E-Type is very widely regarded. Over the years, I've driven plenty of Series 1 E-Types, and there are major differences between them and how they drive, how the early cars drive and how the later cars drive. So the differences would come from the engine and the gearboxes. The initial gearboxes, the Moss gearboxes, were they didn't have synchros on the first and second gears, which makes them a bit more crunchy to the usual driver. This process can be mastered, and once you got the hang of the Moss gearbox, it can be very good to drive. But it can be initially quite daunting to start with. The other differences come in the engine. The 3.8 engine that the early cars had was later modified to the 4.2 liter engine by enlarging the stroke. So the capacity of the engine was increased from 3.8 to 4.2. But the height of the block became longer, and therefore the 3.8 engines are more rev happy. They rev better, while with the 4.2 there is quite a bit more power, but the power comes in earlier. While with the 3.8, if you want to access the full effect of the fantastic 3.8 liter Jaguar XKE engine, then you have to increase the rev and keep the revs up, and that's a major difference. Obviously, over the year, Jaguar tried to make the cars more comfortable. So things like the wheelbase enlarged between the Series 1 and 2 and 3. The aim was to please the American market, where Jaguar was selling 3 times more left-hand drive cars rather than everywhere around the right-hand drive side of the world, really. Therefore, the cars were built with the American market in mind, which showed very well into the sales figures, which, a lot more left-hand drive cars were sold. Now there is intent for the left-hand drive cars to return to the UK and be converted to a right-hand drive, which we've done plenty of those lately. The value always oscillates between the US and the UK or the right-hand drive market. Therefore, some of the time the cars get converted from left-hand drive to right-hand drive, and ultimately they end up converted back to left-hand drive. So we've seen them all, we've done them all. Yeah, massive differences between the drivability of the 3.8 and 4.2. Plenty to explore from that point of view. Other differences that you will see between the XKE Series 1, 2 and 3 are the headlights in particular. In the Series 1, they were covered by a glass panel, which is very pretty, and it goes very well with the bonnet and everything else around. So it's almost like the distinctive feature of the Series 1, and what made the E-Type legendary ultimately are these kind of glass-covered headlights with the chrome ring. You will see it in all the paperwork or any famous E-Type pictures. You will see these fantastic shaped headlights, but you can also see the position of the indicators and the side lights and the way that the bumpers are formed. On the Series 1, the indicators sit above the bumper. On the Series 2 and 3, you will see they are quite bulbous, the indicators, and they are under the bumper. Later on, following the Series 1, with the Series 2, Jaguar tried to appease the safety regulations of the American market. So if the aesthetics of the E-Type changed quite a bit, it was only from a health and safety point of view. So just following guidance, I guess, at the time, how the car should be. So the glass panel was removed not to eliminate any flare or glare, to eliminate any glare from the headlights. They removed the distortion by removing the glass panel, and you can see the open headlights on the Series 2 and 3 Jaguar E-Types. While at the back we also see the same idea. The indicators and the rear lights were fitted under the bumper and became larger, so not so subtle anymore and not so attractive from a design point of view, but a lot more visible and prominent onto the rear end of the E-Type. And it's the same with the exhaust and the number plate and the rear number plate. They all became safety conscious rather than design conscious and design driven. The Jaguar tried to design, make the cars for the American market, and therefore to follow all those regulations. The Jaguar E-Type, or XKE as the American market would call it, was introduced in 1972. It was the Series 3 and the V12 model, so at the time Jaguar opted to introduce a V12 engine rather than the 6-cylinder engine which we've seen in the Series 1 and 2, and that made a massive difference to the drivability and how the car reacted. Also, other changes that the Series 3 introduced were the extended wheelbase, and the width of the car that was slightly increased. There was no new body versions. It was only available in the Roadster, which we have right behind me, and the 2+2, the coupe with the rear seats, which we also have behind us. We've seen through the years from 1972 to 1974, we've seen various modifications done to the V12. We're now sat behind the wheel of this respected Jaguar E-Type XKE Series 3, and you can see with the Series 3 a lot of plastic elements were introduced, in particular the switches, the dash switches, and this dash surround panel. If the early Series 1 XKEs had the braided aluminium panels, which made it again one of those legendary features of the Series 1, with the Series 2 and 3 and the later Series 1s, this vinyl covered central panel was introduced, but also later on this kind of plastic switches that were much larger were introduced also. The Series 3 benefits from the central console that has a raised panel, and the radio or the ashtray was moved from the central console to this central panel in here. Also an armrest in the middle was introduced. There's also a storage pocket. This is a good addition from a comfort point of view, but not so much from an aesthetics point of view. The steering wheel was heavily modified as well. If the thin wooden steering wheel that the Series 1 had was very attractive and it felt very good on touch, the Series 3 has this large horn center push coupled with brazed aluminium spoke design with a leather cover steering wheel. So a very big difference in there. Not much has changed in the middle from the first generation to the Series 3. We still have the two central rev counter and the speedo, which are very cool, and again one of the symbols of the E-Type, with the design of the rev counter and the speedo. The Series 2 had the horn on a lever at the side of the steering wheel, while the 3 has it in the middle, and so does the 1. Yeah, with the 3 this became the central push, so a very different design with the growler onto the middle of the steering wheel. So from the start, Jaguar introduced two body types with the Series 1. So we had the Roadster, also called the OTS, which comes from open two-seater, and we had the coupe for the Series 1. We, of course, there's been the race versions, the semi-lightweight and the lightweight. We did successfully raced at Le Mans and around the world, but we'll leave those out of the equation for now, as we're talking about road-going E-Types. So we've seen the coupe and the Roadster. The Series 1 in 1966, if my memory serves me right, also appeared in a 2+2 version, which was a bit like the coupe, but a bit more bulbous at the back to allow for the rear seats, which we're sat in at the moment. We're sat in a Series 3 V12. They also was presented in a 2+2 version. So the coupe was, if anything, the more attractive from a design point of view version, with only 2 seats. The 2+2 was a bit more family friendly. If 2 kids can squeeze into those back seats, I'd be amazed. Certainly my kids won't be able to squeeze in there, but the rear seats are very useful on a long journey. You can put your maps, or it's just additional storage space in there that is very beneficial. What happens though is that the looks on the outside of the vehicle of the XKE gets transformed, and certain people prefer the purity of the coupe in the exchange of the functionality of the 2+2. We've seen the 2+2 throughout the generation, so from the Series 1 4.2 to later the Series 2 and the Series 3. The Series 3 didn't have a coupe version. It was ditched by Jaguar just to focus on the 2+2, and again for the American market where more space was required, the coupe it disappeared from the Series 3 looks. What makes the E-Type attractive from a value point of view? Of course, the value comes in the very early cars. The first 250 E-Types are the most valuable ones, marked by the outside bonnet lock and the flat floors, while later with the Series 2 the value drops off significantly from those early Series 1 cars. From a value point of view, the Series 2 became a bit like the ugly duckling of the E-Type variants. They are less desirable. They from a design point of view, their elements are not so sought after. They are not so prestigious as the Series 1s, but the engine is not the V12 engine either from the Series 3, so they are a bit in the middle, a bit Marmite from that point of view. From a working point of view, for us they make no difference. They are absolutely identical to work on. From a difficulty point of view, from a Series 1 to a Series 2 or a Series 3, they makes no difference for us really, and we love them equally the same. But the market dictates that the Series 2 are the ones to get into. If you are looking for an E-Type from a value point of view, like a reasonably priced E-Type, then you'll probably be looking at the Series 2 2+2. That will be the we won't say cheap, but that will be the most attractive proposition from a cost point of view. If anything, they are the less desirable from a design point of view, but they are the best priced E-Type if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for an investment, if you're looking for a collector's car, then you would be looking for the very early flat floor outside bonnet lock Series 1s. If you are looking for a GT E-Type to do long distance driving, comfort, so more space, maybe air conditioning, then you definitely be looking for a Series 3. The V12 engine, when it was introduced with the Series 3 in 1972, brought a lot of GT elements. The car had a longer wheelbase. The engine was very torquey, but being V12, the power comes in mid-range, and is very drivable, very good for long distance driving, in particular for motorways. So if you're looking for a car that can do trips to France or to the continent and back effortlessly, then you'll definitely be looking for the V12. If you're looking for a B road, for a back road fast E-Type, then you would be going probably for the 3.8 Series 1 E-Types, because those are the purest driving cars really. They are very early cars, and they represent that legacy, but they are also fantastic to drive on the B road. So changing gears, accelerating back and forth. They also make good race cars, and all the race cars that we see prepared to FIA spec, they are those 3.8 versions, because they are the most drivable out of the E-Types. When buying a Jaguar E-Type, the value comes from an E-Type or an XKE that has very good metalwork. So this is the first thing to look out for when looking to purchase an E-Type. The metalwork is very expensive to restore. A lot of hours are spent out of the total hours of restoring an E-Type. Maybe 60% of the hours are spent into the metalwork, and I'm seeing that from experience of having led multiple E-Type restorations where I see the majority of the hours coming from the metalwork. So if you're looking for a bargain, buy one that has very good metalwork. Everything else can be easily rectified. Of course, the engines are pretty bulletproof. An XKE engine or a V12 engine can last up to 30 years without taking it apart if regular maintenance has been conducted. So do look out for a car that has very good service history and it's been looked after. But first of all, look for the metalwork. If you are looking for a high-end investment in a Jaguar E-Type, of course, look for one of the early cars, but look for matching numbers. And what I mean by that, I mean the information the Jaguar provided when the car left Browns Lane or left the factory, like the engine numbers, the block number and the cylinder head number, to be matching the paperwork, to be matching the chassis tag, but also the information, the database that Jaguar provided, also the gearbox number and the body number. All cars have a body identification number which might be present. It's in very well-known locations, hidden almost on the body, but it's always present on the body. This information, these bits of data are very important to the end value of the car. Now, if you are looking for a good driving car, then you're not so concerned about all these matching numbers story, particularly in the Series 2 or the V12 cars. There's good bargains to be had from a financial point of view. You might be able to find a car that's had maybe a cylinder head replaced in the past, or may had the engine completely replaced in the past. So you might find cars like that so don't let that put you off from finding a good E-Type if matching numbers is not such a big deal. So for example, on the V12 E-Type, you will find the engine number at the back of the engine block, while the body number has been fitted right onto the bulkhead under the heater box. You won't be able to see it in this instance, but I can assure you it will be there. On the V12, don't look for the number on the picture frame because it's not going to be there, like the Series 1 and 2 have it. On the 6-cylinder engine, you will find the engine number right above the oil filter. So onto the right-hand side where the oil filter normally sits, while the cylinder head number, you'll find it in the valley at the front, right behind the cylinder head wall. It's normally stamped there. The casting number is at the back of the cylinder head on the top. The body number can be found either behind the number plate or sometimes under one of the rear wheel arches. And the gearbox number is obviously on the gearbox. Sometimes the gearbox is difficult to get to, but with a bit of perseverance and know-how, you will be able to find the gearbox number. And that's it. That's it in terms of body location and numbers. Normally there's a chassis plate on the Series 1 and 2 fitted on the right hand side, right next to the battery, while on the V12 there is a different chassis tag which is a lot larger and fitted just on the top of the bulkhead right behind the engine. I'll give you a massive tip what to look for when buying an E-Type. So I've inspected maybe tens if not hundreds of Jaguar E-Types, and 90% of the cars that I look at have this fault. It's not known by many, but a lot of the cars have it, and it becomes a massive problem. The brake pipes, the rubber pipes that are connecting the two brake bottles on the left-hand side of the car, some of the time are not adequate, so they are not meant to carry brake fluid, and therefore the brake fluid seeps out of the pipe and onto the bodywork over time, and then they create a rust spot in between themselves and the engine frames, but also through the body. This can cost you thousands if you don't miss this. Metalwork is involved, painting can be involved, and to put this right, once this has happened, can have financial consequences. Almost every time, this is the first thing I look for, other than the matching numbers. This is the first thing I look for when looking at the new Jaguar E-Type XKE. Another talking point when inspecting a Jaguar E-Type is rust. We've always seen classic cars suffering with rust, and in 1960s, let's face it, Jaguar didn't think that this car will still be knocking about and presenting considerable value 60 or 70 years later down the line. So they didn't quite think, let's make these cars last 100 years. Now, so British steel, faced with humidity, condensation, hot and cold temperatures, it started rusting, and it started rusting quite badly. If rust appears on one of these cars, then, well, it needs to be put right. Otherwise, the car is sidelined and it won't function as it should. The major points where we see the rust are in the lower section of the E-Type, as you'd expect. One of the points is right here at the back, where the rear quarter panels, they have a drain hole. So the water, if it gets into the boot, this is where it drains into these holes. Therefore, there is a lot of water into this section. This is one of the points where we see a lot of rust. Other points are the seals and the rear wheel arches, where again water congregates in the bottom section, but also the bonnet. So underside the bonnet, we see a lot of rust. If the car is pretty on the outside and has been painted on the outside, opening the bonnet might tell you a different story. So please have a look for that. If you see a lot of rust under the bonnet, or even worse, under seal, that will be hiding certain things, and it's just a way of saying be careful about that. Other points of rust are, as we said, the floors, and look out for the brake fluid coming through the bodywork and into the driver's footwell. Look out at the lower section of the bulkhead where the engine frames connect. That's about it. That's the main points that I look for. But when I do an inspection, I just have the car up at height, and you can see loads of things like where the torsion bars mount. The jacking points are another area of concern, or can be. I hope you'll enjoy this insightful view into Jaguar E-Types. If you have any exciting projects, do let us know. I hope to see you on to the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.